The Silent Shadows, the Suzanne Miller Mystery. September 15th, 1974, began like any other day in the quiet city of London, Ontario. The streets were alive with the usual Sunday hum. Families heading to church, neighbors tending their lawns. Among them, Suzanne Miller, a 25-year-old mother of three, was heading out for what seemed like a simple visit to her sister's apartment. She stepped out of her Gamage Street apartment, her blue Datsun gleaming in the sunlight as she turned the key and pulled out of the lot. It was a short drive just across town, but Suzanne never arrived. By nightfall, the questions began to mount. Where was Suzanne Miller? What had happened on that ordinary Sunday afternoon? Just weeks later, those questions turned into a dark reality. Suzanne's lifeless body was discovered in a woodlot near Thorndale, Ontario, sending shockwaves through her family, her community, and law enforcement. But her story didn't end there. It's a case that remains shrouded in mystery nearly 5 decades later. A missing woman, an abandoned car, a cryptic visitor at her funeral, and a murderer who has never been brought to justice. In today's episode of Ontario Cold Cases, we delve deep into the haunting mystery of Suzanne Miller. Who was she? What led to her untimely death? Most chillingly, why has her killer managed to evade justice for all these years? This is a story of quiet devotion turned into unspeakable tragedy. This is The Silent Shadows, the Suzanne Miller Mystery. Explore the unsolved mysteries of Canada with our captivating true crime podcast, Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's true crime podcast. As we piece together the evidence and follow the trail of clues, we invite you to become a part of our mission to solve these perplexing cases. New episodes available every Sunday. Early life. Born in 1948, Suzanne Miller seemed like the embodiment of quiet devotion. A steadfast mother of 3, she shared a modest life with her common-law husband in the shadow of London, Ontario's Army Barracks, nestled within the apartment block of 26 Gamage Street. Suzanne was a woman of subtle passions, an introvert who found solace in the hum of a sewing machine and the rhythmic dance of pots and pans in her kitchen. Her creations and culinary delights were not just hobbies, but an extension of her love for her family. By 1974, Suzanne balanced her role as a homemaker with work at the local metropolitan department store, striving to provide a better life for her children. She was just 10 days away from her 26th birthday, when her life was abruptly and tragically stolen. Little did anyone know the mundane yet cherished rituals of her everyday life would soon be overshadowed by a crime that would haunt her family and the city of London for decades to come. Disappearance. The morning of September 15th, 1974 dawned like any other, with no hint of the tragedy that would soon unfold. Suzanne Miller, a creature of quiet routine, had plans to visit her sister that Sunday. At 1:30 p.m., she stepped out of her apartment on Gamage Street, slid behind the wheel of her blue Datsun, and vanished into the early afternoon. But Suzanne never arrived at her sister's doorstep. Hours turned to night, and unease settled in like a shadow. By the next day, worry gave way to dread. She hadn't returned home, and no one, neither her family nor friends, had seen her. Her husband, unable to shake the growing fear, contacted the London Police Service, reporting her as missing. What began as an ordinary Sunday had turned into the opening chapter of a sinister mystery, one that would cast a long dark shadow over the city of London. Discovery. For days, investigators combed through Suzanne Miller's life, clinging to the hope that she had simply gone off the grid. But hope began to waver until their first significant clue surfaced on September 23rd, 1974. Parked unassumingly at Argyle Mall, her blue 1972 Datsun Fastback sat like a silent witness to the mystery. Just southeast of her last known location, but the car offered little to unlock the puzzle. No blood, no fingerprints, no forensic breadcrumbs to follow. The case grew colder with each passing day until October 12, 1974, when the chilling truth emerged. In a secluded wooded lot near Thorndale, Ontario, a grisly discovery shattered any remaining illusions of a happy ending. Suzanne's decomposing body was found lying near the banks of the Thames River, her final resting place just a short drive northeast of London. The missing persons case had transformed into a homicide investigation. The once quiet mother of three was now the victim of a brutal crime, leaving behind only questions and a trail that had seemingly gone cold before it even began. Up next, the investigation. The investigation. The grim discovery of Suzanne Miller's body ignited a joint investigation between the Ontario Provincial Police and the London Police Service. It's a dark chapter in the city's history, and Suzanne's murder became one of many unsolved homicides haunting the region. When found, Suzanne's body was clothed but barefoot, an eerie detail that hinted at something sinister. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head, inflicted with a tool or metal object. There were no signs of sexual assault. Nearby investigators located her purse with identification. They held off on publicly confirming the body's identity. The evidence painted a chilling picture. Police believe Suzanne had been killed elsewhere, her body transported to the wooded lot in a calculated attempt to erase traces of the crime, and that her body was dumped in the wooded lot in an attempt to conceal it. Her blue Datsun yielded no clues. It was spotless, confirming that the true crime scene lay somewhere beyond reach, likely in another car. The investigation took a bizarre turn on October 20th, 1974, during Suzanne's visitation. Among the mourners was an enigmatic man, balding, reeking of alcohol, and claiming to be a friend. He left a $20 donation for flowers and briefly lingered near the casket before vanishing into the night. His identity a mystery, police sketched his face from witness accounts and released it to the public, but the man was never found. Detectives were chasing shadows. Suzanne's family and friends were baffled. No one could fathom who would want to harm her. Although early leads sparked hope, the lack of forensic tools in 1974 left investigators struggling to connect the dots. A $5,000 reward was offered for information, but the trail went cold. Attempts to revive the case in the 1990s brought no breakthroughs. Then on July 19th, 2018, a spark of hope reignited with the launch of the OPP's Find My Killer campaign. Leveraging modern technology, the initiative aimed to cast a wide net using social media, posters, and even a vinyl-wrapped police van emblazoned with Suzanne's image, parked in high-visibility locations across London. A poignant YouTube video urged anyone with information to come forward. At the campaign's launch, police remained tight-lipped about suspects or persons of interest, but suggested the killer might now be ready to talk, perhaps burdened by decades of guilt. The response was promising. Numerous tips flooded in, but whether these whispers would lead to answers remains a guarded secret. Suzanne Miller's story refuses to fade into history, a haunting reminder of a life stolen and justice deferred. The question still lingers: who killed Suzanne and why? Only time and perhaps the conscience of a killer will tell. Aftermath. Suzanne Miller's murder remains one of London's most haunting and infamous cold cases, a mystery that continues to captivate and confound. Decades later, the pain still lingers for her family, amplified by the questions left unanswered. In an emotional video released by the OPP, Suzanne's sister issued a heartfelt plea to the killer, urging them to come forward. "I know you must feel guilt," she said, her voice heavy with hope and anguish. Theories about the motive have swirled over the years. Some investigators believe it may have been a personal cause homicide, suggesting that the murderer's actions were deeply tied to their relationship with Suzanne. Hints of an early suspect emerged, what law enforcement ominously referred to as the name already in the box. Someone was on their radar, but in the absence of conclusive evidence, the case went cold. That suspect, however, is unlikely to be the mystery man who showed up at Suzanne's funeral visitation. The balding figure with the odor of alcohol left a $20 donation for flowers and signed the register simply as a friend before disappearing into the night. Police searched for him at the funeral and circulated a sketch to the public, but his connection to the case, if any, remains unclear. In cases like Suzanne's, suspicion often creeps closest to home, within the victim's inner circle. Investigators noted Suzanne's path in life, suggesting it may have intersected with dangerous individuals or circumstances. But without hard evidence, theories remain just that, speculation. As of the 2018 OPP press conference, the reward for information was increased to $50,000, a sum intended to reignite public interest and coax new leads from the shadows. Suzanne's case is often compared to the 1963 murder of Margaret Sheeler, another tragedy where police struggled to pin down their prime suspect. Suzanne Miller's story is a chilling reminder of how justice can slip through the cracks, leaving behind a trail of heartache and unanswered questions. For those holding the key to the truth, the time to come forward is now. And that brings us to the end of the Silent Shadows, the Suzanne Miller mystery. Suzanne's case stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of justice and the persistence of grief. Nearly 50 years later, her family, her community, and investigators continue to seek the answers they deserve. We need your help. If you or anyone you know has information about Suzanne Miller's case, please contact the Ontario Provincial Police Tip Line at 1-844-677-5060 or email smillertips@opp.ca. Prefer to remain anonymous? You can also submit tips through Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. Your call could bring closure to a family that has waited for far too long and help ensure that Suzanne's story doesn't end in silence. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe to Ontario Cold Cases wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon. And join us every week as we bring you the stories of Canada's most haunting unsolved crimes. Leave us a review, share this episode with friends, and help us shine a light in these cold cases. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the smallest clue can crack the coldest case.